Ask your mind to ask the questions, ask your heart to know the answers. That's what Raymont is here for, to help our hearts know the answers. Today's question is the wages of sin death, as it says in traditional scripture? Raymont is our newly, what's the word? Installed. Installed. Wow, installed. Minister, that's like he just plugged right in here, and here we all are together. You'll get to meet Raymont over and over again. I'm looking forward to years of meeting Raymont over and over again. But today, let me just say, you are so appreciated being here. Thank you. Raymont Anderson.
Thank you. So if I may, before I start, can I say a couple of things? Okay, thank you. So, one, I would like to make an announcement that Susie shared with me that today at 7:30, North Charles, there is a concert called Concerts on the 2nd. BSO free concert, chamber music tonight. They take offerings, donations, etc. So, other ways of us reaching out and getting out into the community. Also, I would like to take a moment of just reflection, today being Veterans Day, just to, one, honoring the veterans, those who have been and those who are, and those who have yet to be, until we reach a time, because for me, the greatest way to honor the veterans is to reach a time when we don't need any. So, let us just reflect on thanking them with gratitude for what they have done, what they are doing, but also knowing that we are raising the consciousness to a degree where there will come a time where there is no country, no nation, no civilization that has need for soldiers.
And no religion, too.
So let's start. You ready, Tracy? So, also I would like to say, it's funny when you go back and you look at the video from yesterday and you realize things you thought you said you didn't say. It's like, oh wow, there were a whole bunch of other people I meant to thank that I thought I thanked that I didn't. I got caught up in tears and snot, and I apologize. So, definitely need to thank everyone, every single person whose hand went into preparing and everything. Thank you all, Leadership Council, Board, everybody, everyone that attended, everyone that prayed, everyone. Thank you all. Greatly appreciate. Thank you for, my grandson enjoyed the cake, so thank you for that as well. It was a great, thank you. So, if any of you, like me, you grew up at a time when, or in a spiritual practice that, or religion that really drove this idea home, and even if you didn't, the fact that we are in this country, which is a Judeo-Christian nation, there's almost no way that you can escape the idea, the concept of sin and punishment. One way, shape, or form. And the funny thing is, I love this line from Stevie Wonder from the song Superstition. When you believe in things that you don't understand, then you suffer. So when you believe in things that you don't understand, funny thing is, there are many people who don't understand sin, and that's why they suffer. Sin being, coming from an archer's term, missing the mark. So when you miss the mark, when you add 2 plus 2 and it comes out to be 9, you miss the mark. But that doesn't mean you're bad. And yet we have this concept that says, when you sin, you should be punished. Now, the funny thing is, in New Thought, we may not use these words, but many of us still have superstitious paradigms, because we'll still say things like, And please, no one complete this sentence. Complete it in your mind. Do not say it out loud. Karma is a. That's that. When we believe that karma is someone waiting for us to mess up to say, Safi, I've been waiting. Boo, and then karma jumps out and gets us. The moment we say anything about that cosmic 2x4 that upside the head to knock us back on track, it's still some idea of some anthropomorphic deity consciousness. Even when we say things about our higher consciousness, sometimes my higher consciousness doesn't like what I'm doing, and my higher consciousness kicks me in the behind and says, boy, get back to what you're supposed to be doing. No! There is no separation of, there is no deity, consciousness, anything that is out there trying to punish us for. We are the ones who do that. We are the ones who bring all of this stuff into our present lives and punish ourselves. Someone once said, it's been attributed to a certain person, and many people say, well, he didn't really say it. So I'm not even going to give who it's attributed to. But you will not be punished by. You won't be punished for your anger. You will be punished by it. Meaning, you're not going to be punished because you're angry, like from some outside thing, but the fact that you are angry is punishment enough. The fact that we allow ourselves to be welled up with some kind of animosity, rage, righteous indignation, anything, I don't care what label you put on it. That's the punishment. Many, many weeks ago, I gave that reference about what forgiveness is and about the snake, right? Remember that? Anybody in here who didn't get that memo? So the snake, forgiveness is you go out to go camping and you get bitten by a snake and you have poison in your system. Anger, beyond a certain level, becomes poisonous, becomes toxic. There's a certain level of anger that is fine, where you should be angry. You should feel a certain level of, I now need to step on the path and do something. It's one of the reasons why I love that show that I've mentioned several times, What Would You Do? And there's the episode where there's a woman, well, first I think they did a gentleman carrying a beer can, and he's got 2 kids with him, and he's staggering with the kids and trying to get his car keys, and people are walking by, and they're like, I think he's drunk, and a lot of people just kept on walking by. Now clearly there is a gentleman, father, can of beer, intoxicated, getting ready to get in the car. What would you do? Why do we choose not to get involved? And not even get involved in that kind of thing. We don't get involved in our own lives to any significant degree because we are afraid. It is easier, because the theme for the month is freedom from fear. Get to error thinking later. Freedom from fear. We walk around with a lot of fear. And that fear by itself is punishment enough. We don't need some god or devil or demons or mom or whoever to punish us for doing bad, or being bad, when we are the ones who lump those coals upon our own heads and suffer ourselves. So just for a moment, if we were to sit back and think about, well, what am I afraid of? And am I legitimately afraid of it now? Fight, flight, or freeze. Now am I afraid of? Because some of the things that I hear people, in counseling, coaching, etc., people say, I'm afraid of World War III. So you're afraid of it now? Like right now? And many of us, yes, I'm afraid of it right. Is it happening right now? Meaning, I don't like cobras. Never seen one in real life other than in a zoo, but trust and believe, you open the basket and the cobra goes, Ray's gonna run. Trust and believe, because they can spit 10 feet. Now I'm gonna run 20 feet, so I understand. But is it here right now? Is that thing that you are afraid of here happening right now in this plane of existence? Or are we creating it simply by the thoughts we are thinking, knowing that our thoughts are prayers and we are always praying? Knowing that, one of the Declaration of Principles that Ernest Holmes says, we believe in the healing of the sick and control of conditions through the power of this mind. This mind being, there is one mind, that mind is God's mind, that mind is my mind now. So through the power of this one mind, we can control conditions. That also means that the conditions that I'm controlling can be creating the very thing that I am. Job said, the thing that I feared the most has come upon me. How did that happen? Because you were thinking about it over and over and over again. That's why your name is Job. Job. You made worrying and fear your job, dude. What? When we make all of the things that we are afraid of, the dominant energy, the dominant push, the dominant pull, the dominant energy of our lives, how do we escape? And the funny thing is, this whole thing about death, because that's a big fear. Even amongst many of us in New Thought. When on the one hand, we will say, there is no such thing as death, there is only life. God and God is all there is, and God is eternal and infinite and ever. But I trust and believe. Listen, Linda, listen. I'm afraid. So how do we reconcile the paradox of, we say we believe in life eternal, infinite, and ever expanding, that God is all there is, and that it is incarnating itself right here, in, through, and as each and every one of us. There is no separation. And if God cannot die, then we cannot die. Now, the body may be shed, and therein lies one of the things. We are so identified with this meat suit that when anything goes wrong with it, we're like, oh snap, oh no, Heather, pray for me, pray, please. Rather than getting grounded and saying, in the same way that I am driving my car, and the engine light comes on, or I get a flat tire, I don't need to roll out of my car, fall on the ground, start kicking and screaming like, my car's gonna die. We get the car fixed, or we buy a new car. Because somewhere there's a consciousness that knows there is something beyond flat tire. There is something beyond failed engine. There is something beyond a 1968 Beetle. Like, we know there is something beyond that vehicle. So how do we reconcile for us today, in this moment, that this is not who and what we are? That the moment we really get grounded and say, how do I part the veil that I believe is separating me from the infinite, to connect with this infinite power and presence, to know for myself that I cannot die. That even when the body is shed, even when the body is released, even that there is this power and presence that must go beyond. Because it has been said that everything that we fear, whether it's public speaking, whether it's taking vocal lessons, bungee jumping, etc., comes to that. And people say, well, I'm not afraid that if I get up and give a speech, I'm going to be like, hello, good morning. Like, that's not what I'm afraid of. But we're afraid that we're going to get up here and we're going to mess up, miss the mark, make so many mistakes that people will laugh at us, like in the Stephen King, they're all going to laugh at you. They're all going to laugh at you. And that our ego will suffer a death. See, so it doesn't matter if it's a physical death or a psychological death. Death is death when we let the mind grasp or grapple with the idea that I am being hurt. So our invitation is, how do I step forward into a completely new level of being where I am willing to stare at my fears boldly, confidently, and cast them out? Yesterday at the installation, one of the things that I mentioned was, for the last couple of weeks, I've been reflecting on childhood memories and, how did I end up getting where I am today? And, I've been thinking about Mr. Rogers and Sesame Street and Zoom, for those who may not remember Zoom, and The Electric Company, first place I saw Morgan Freeman, and The Exorcist. Took a minute, huh? But one of these things doesn't belong here. And the funny thing is, and I'm serious, The Exorcist. Because The Exorcist scarred me. Scarred me. But it scarred me in a way that horror movies don't scare me.
They don't scare me.
It has given me the ability to no longer be afraid of that. But I mention it specifically because there's a scene in The Exorcist where Father Merrin and Father Carrick must cast out the demon from Reagan. And they're going through the power of Christ compels you. And the whole 9 yards, right? And I remember watching this thinking, there is no way. There has been a joke where people said, if The Exorcist was about a black family, that movie would have been 2 minutes long. Because people were like, oh, Madonna's possessed, we can make a new one. We're not staying. The house said, get out, honey, let's move. We're not staying in the house spoke and it said, get out, let's go. Put stuff back in the car. So I'm thinking, there is no way I'm going to stand at the foot of the bed no. But imagine what kind of courage and audacity it takes to be able to stare at that ugliness and know that beneath that ugliness there is a beautiful child worthy of life. Why do we not use that same kind of audacity and courage to speak that into our own lives and know that the power of Christ consciousness compels us? That the power of life compels us. The power of love compels us. The power of knowing who and what we are as the all-encompassing I am compels us to walk a walk and know that this ain't all of me. That my name is not all of me. That my mistakes that I have made, am making, or will make determine or quantify or qualify who and what I am. Because we're going to make mistakes. We are going to fall down. It is part of what it is to be human. If anyone ever had a baby, and as soon as the baby was born, jumped out of the doctor's arms, hit the floor, and started jogging, you would ask for an epidural in your eyeball. You would like, ah! That's not, that, what? We expect a growth curve. We expect the baby to have to crawl, to stumble, to fall, get back up, and fall again. It's expected. What point do we get to the point where we no longer expect ourselves to stumble and occasionally fall and then get back up? We have this expectation that we are supposed to be fall-proof.
Upright at all times.
All times. And we judge ourselves accordingly to that paradigm. What would happen if we offered ourselves enough grace and forgiveness and love just to say, boo, you're all right, just as you are. That there is nothing you could have ever done, ever do, that will make you unworthy of being totally loved and accepted through the power of agape, unconditional love. There is nothing, and I mean nothing, meaning there are people now that we judge for their mistakes. God only knows. We judge them. And that's also part of the human path, to work through, why am I projecting my judgments on, and I want this person punished because, and granted, many of them, yeah, because we have a check and balance system, a law system. You do something, karma, cause and effect. You've murdered someone, go to jail. Cause and effect. You going to jail does not necessarily mean you are a bad or evil person, because you're still God. You're still God. Whether you know it or not, you are still. There are not some who are and some who aren't. Several weeks ago, I said, that name someone whose you identify as being more spiritual or whatever. People name Gandhi and King and Mother Teresa and whomever. But if God is all there is, and the totality of that which it is right here where you are, completely. Not God is in all of this except for this finger. No, God is in all of every fingernail, every hair, every bald spot, like whatever it is. God is everywhere. There is no part of us that is missing or void of that which God is. So it doesn't matter what their actions are, they're still God. Are we judging them as a being? You are evil. Or are we judging their actions? You're God, you're worthy of love, but what you did has consequences. It's a big difference. And see, when we stop projecting that self stuff here, then it becomes easier to stop projecting it on others. When we're able to step back and say, can I love myself a little bit more? Can I accept myself a little bit more? Can I be okay in my own skin a little bit more? Just a little bit. If it takes faith the size of a mustard seed, then can I have love the size of a mustard seed to move the mountain of self-hatred? Can I have joy the size of a mustard seed to help me navigate through my depression? Or can I, just the size of just that much? Am I willing? Because to be willing means I have to let go of something. Dawn and I were speaking earlier about the concept of the phoenix. In order for the phoenix to rise and do what it does by spreading love, beauty, and power, it has to die at some point so that it can be reborn. Now, it's going to be reborn. That's the myth of the phoenix. It builds the funeral pyre, climbs on it, it sets itself ablaze, it burns to ash, and from the ash, a new phoenix rises. Eternally. But we are so connected to, but I like my feathers. But you're going to get new feathers, but I like these feathers. But the next set of feathers are going to be more beautiful. How do you know? You don't know. I know what these feathers look like. And we argue for our limitations. We argue for our right and reason to stay stuck. We argue for our reasons to be dead already. Because many of us are like, there's a television show on AMC called The Walking Dead. And it's about zombies. And the funny thing is, because they don't use that word in the show. And the funny thing is, they've said, the producers and creators of the show said, who are the Walking Dead, though? Are the Walking Dead the zombies? Or are the Walking Dead the people? That's an interesting concept. How many of you have ever been in D.C. during any touristy season time of year, riding the metro or anything? How many of you have been delayed in getting to your destination because somebody was on the escalator in their phone, got to the bottom and just stopped? How many people have walked in front of trains and off curbs and into traffic? Boom! The Walking Dead are among us now. But what we are is life, abundantly, right now. Are we willing to let go of all of that stuff? To let all that life is spring forth within us? There's a book that Ernest Holmes wrote called This Thing Called Life, life being a synonym for God. And one of the things he says in there is, let's do all life, all health, all peace, and all possibility exist in this power, which is available to all. It is a knowledge of this and the conscious use of this knowledge which will give freedom. Our loneliness, our sense of isolation, our poverty, doubt, and sickness are results of being disconnected from the fullness of this divine self. And the funny thing is, we really can't ever be disconnected. We can't be disconnected. But because we believe that we're disconnected, we have the results as though we are.